Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Kev's Hobby Showcase. I'm, of course, Kevin. You may have also seen me on Tabletop Jones Productions, where John and I are the Tweedies playing board games, and if you haven't, you should. Well, anyway, it is the second weekend of the month, and time for one of my favorite things: talk about comics. So, I've come up with a bunch of different subjects over the past few months. So today's subject is my favorite X-Men characters. I've actually chosen enough to make it my personal top 10. So here we go. All right. So anyway, before I start, I did do my best to try to find comic covers that featured the character in question that I'm speaking about. Some of them were a little difficult because they didn't have their own series, so I had to find one where they were on it. So, I think I found some good ones. You'll see it up in the corner. Actually, I should adjust this ever. There we go. Ever so slightly. You will see it in that corner. Sometimes I forget. Anyway, so here we go. Okay, we're going to start at number 10, Banshee. Banshee was always a character that I liked when they first introduced him. I liked him because he was older than the rest of the mutants and was basically a retired law enforcement officer. So he kind of, I wouldn't say brought legitimacy to the group, but he did bring like a certain wisdom that I believe helped them greatly. So this powers. I always like this powers. The powers are like a sonic scream, where basically, just by screaming, it turns it into like a deadly beam, or he could use it to fly. And I don't know, between you and me, anybody who saw X-Men First Class, when they did show him flying, it kind of almost made up for the insufferable character that he was throughout the rest of the movie. Because he was, let's face it, he was a bit of a dick. But anyway, Banshee, in the comics, he was an X-Men, then he retired because of damaged vocal cords. Eventually, they did heal, and he did start using his powers more. And he came back. He was more of a teacher. Because he came back in for whoever remembers the comic Generation X, where he was training the new class of mutants. And he did eventually kind of get back into action with the original X-Men on occasion, but not really on a regular basis. But again, he's a mainstay character, one they always go back to. And again, one of my favorites. So we're gonna move on to number 9. Okay, at number 9, I have Colossus. Colossus, as we all know, he's the nice big metal mutant that brings strength and power when needed. Excuse me. Again, when I saw him when he first came in to the X-Men, it was quite a bit naive because he grew up on a Russian farm, so they kind of depicted that pretty well. As he went on, he became of course more and more confident in his role as an X-Man, and I felt he was a very integral part of the team for quite some time. He did kind of turn a little bit for a while, where and I think it kind of came to a point when he was rejected by his lover, Kitty Pryde, at the altar of all places. And so during the whole Krakoa era, he was kind of like almost like a dark character, which I felt was interesting because they depicted him as basically as a character who had enough of what was going on and wanted to see actual change and wanted to see actual change for the better. But I think he kind of went about it the wrong way. I mean, the first thing he did was he killed the woman that he was with at the time when they were just growing crops, and that's all he wanted to do. And then so yeah, it was, his character did go through a lot of ups and downs. For anybody who remembers Fall of the Mutants, when he faced the Marauders, the character Riptide kind of really, kind of hurt him kind of bad. He was like, it's like the blades that he shoots out was like stuck all over Colossus, and then he wound up having like a lot of dents and was worried about reverting back to human form, and so Magneto tried to fix him, but then of course left him paralyzed for a while. So and then he did eventually come back, of course, but yeah, it was the character did go through a lot of ups and downs, which I believe makes just makes him more interesting. And we also got to see him in the movies, which was nice. I do think that they could have focused on him a little bit more. I mean, they did in the Deadpool movies, but then again, In the Deadpool movies, it was just him in his metal form, never in his human form. So I felt like that was, I felt like they could have done more with him there. But definitely, Colossus is definitely a character that I always liked. All right, so move on to number 8. All right, number 8, Nightcrawler, our favorite swashbuckling mutant who can teleport. Oh, I always love this power of teleportation. The fact that also he leaves like the stench of brimstone, which I thought was pretty cool because I mean, whereas he acts like a saint, he looks like a demon. So um, I always felt that it was kind of interesting. Also, kind of interesting. Also, the fact that he was studying to become a priest, which I thought was really interesting, and so so in the comics, always a very lighthearted character, kind of bringing a little levity at times. Now in the movies, who here remembers X-Men 2, X-Men United? Who remembers the opening scene when he was going through the White House? I always thought that was an incredible scene. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'll admit I look it up on YouTube and I just watch it, so because I always felt like it was such a great scene, and just and also from the last animated series, when they did X-Men '97 on Disney Plus, there's like a whole sequence with him and Wolverine when they were fighting the like the new Sentinels, I think they called them Neo Sentinels. I forget what they call them. It's the ones where they turn the humans into Sentinels. I honestly forget what they call them. I should have actually looked that up before I did this video, but I didn't think I was going to talk about it. But I don't script anything. So anyway, yeah, Nightcrawler. It's a character that I feel has been done well in both comics, the movies, the animation. I feel he's been done very well, and I do feel he's a very integral part of the whole X-Men lore, and I really do enjoy reading the comics that he's in. So yeah, but he's down at number 8, and you're gonna find out why when I tell the other ones that are above him. All right, so now let's move on to number 7. All right, at number 7, I have Jean Grey or Phoenix. Yeah, she's like an original member, of course. I mean, I remember reading the both the Phoenix Saga and the Dark Phoenix Saga. Of course, Phoenix Saga where she becomes the Phoenix. Well, that's I mean, people will say that. We all say that, but she didn't actually become the Phoenix. She was kind of replaced by the Phoenix. But the Phoenix had taken basically taken her memories to use to be to and to basically to interact with everybody. And then of course Dark Phoenix, when that version died, sacrificing herself for everybody else. Not and I don't know. I mean, okay, back then I wasn't really collecting them myself at the time. I was getting them from a relative. Excuse me, and I wasn't at the time I wasn't paying too close attention to the storylines. I was mainly fascinated by the art. But hey, can I tell you? I was young. I was really first into it. So, but anyway, so yeah, she was in a cocoon that eventually she came out later as, and basically not realizing what had happened and what had gone on over the many years that everybody thought she was dead. So yeah, and then of course she does kind of integrate with the Phoenix later on, and I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been able to collect anything since well, I see right now it's October. It was since back in February, so it's been 8 months since I've been able to read anything new. So yeah, I'm sure I'm very far behind on what's current, but I do remember while I was reading the new stuff, um, she was basically Of course, this is post Krakoan era. She was basically out in space trying to right the wrongs that the Phoenix did, which is pretty cool. Of course, it does keep her and Cyclops apart, but I felt it was pretty cool, and also she's pretty much a leader in her own right. I mean, anytime they needed anyone to lead a team, she would always be there, ready to do it. If Storm wasn't able to do it, or if Cyclops wasn't able to do it, she would be the one. Or if Wolverine wasn't able to do it, she would be the one to step in and actually do it. So I always felt that Jean Grey was a very important character, and as you can tell, one of my favorites. So now we'll move on to number 6. All right, number 6, I got Psylocke. Yes, our favorite ninja assassin mutant. Now, what I always found interesting was, okay, so for whoever remembers way back when they did Fall of the Mutants, and the X-Men wound up in basically some like remote town in Australia, of all places, like the Australian outback. she was, she was there as, as herself, and then they had it where they all went through the Seas Perilous, and they would all eventually come out in different spots, different, as in different ways. She wound up coming out, merged seemingly with a mutant called Quanon, who we didn't find this out until much later, of course. But she looked Asian, which of course Quanon is Asian. So, I mean, when Psylocke, first came out in that form, I was a little confused, but I was like, well, okay, whatever. And the character was still great. She would have this what they call a psi blade, basically using her mental powers to make a psychic blade. She would use one as like a katana, and another one that she would basically plunge into the brains of whoever she was fighting against and just scramble them. Just I mean, not kill them, thankfully, but just like scramble their brains so that they can either get what they wanted or get away. But I always felt that she was a good character, especially because now she brought in much better fighting skills to the to the character. I mean, they did eventually split them apart again, during the Krakoan era, where Betsy Braddock, didn't really use the name Psylocke anymore because she became the new Captain Britain, and and Quanon became, basically kept the name Psylocke. So it was. I mean, again, I haven't been able to read anything in about 8 months, but the last I was reading is she was basically reclaiming her life as it was, and while Betsy Braddock was, claiming her mantle as the new Captain Britain. Sorry, every time I try to say Captain, it's coming out Captain. Sorry about that. Well, anyway, so yeah, Psylocke came in for me at number 6. So now we'll move on to number 5. All right, so for me, number 5 is Gambit. I mean, Gambit sometimes I feel is underused, but when they had him start an actual relationship with Rogue, it kind of stepped up, and you kind of saw more aspects to the character. You kind of saw more of his like personality, which I thought was a good one. I mean, he was. He's thief at heart, but still still thinks of others, still wants to help people and all that stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, as far as with media, like the movies, they tried him once, and I wish they would try again. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They tried him once. They did kind of. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. They did kind of try again in the last Deadpool movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. So for all those years when they were teasing Channing Tatum as Gambit, they finally gave it to us. But in that, where he basically was like a forgotten character, so it was kind of cool, kind of comical, but also kind of bittersweet because they're like, oh, are we gonna see him do it again? Because I've heard people complain about that where they said, oh, we couldn't understand him. Like, yeah, because he was trying to speak as Occasion. Sometimes I mean, I don't know if anybody is as old as me and you saw videos of this guy called Occasion Cook. I mean, my dad used to watch him all the time. I used to try to understand what he was saying, and I was at a loss. So yeah, I think Channing Tatum did a damn good job at being Occasion because I could barely understand what he was saying. But anyway, as far as the actual powers of Gambit, they did. I felt that they depicted them well. Now in the animation, I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't seen it yet because in the animation, it was in the X-Men '97 series, it was a big thing that happened with Gambit, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but I'm just going to tell you, it's heartbreaking but very cool. All right, so but anyway, in the comics, every time they have him in there, always always done well as far as I'm concerned. Very enjoyable for me. I mean, like for me at least. So yeah, so Gambit's number 5, and now we'll move on to number 4. All right, so at number 4, I have Rogue. I can't have Gambit without Rogue, right? Now, I remember when they brought Rogue in the very beginning. Because when I was reading at the time, I didn't read the comics where she was the villain, so I didn't know much about her as a villain. I just knew that, excuse me, that she had taken the powers like of Ms. Marvel from Carol Danvers, and held on to her too long, and not only took the powers, but also kind of took her, like her personality, her memories, everything, and was in such turmoil that she went to Professor X for help. So I that part I remember, of course, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like she came in when she came in, she was invulnerable. She could fly. and also very like super strong, which was a very good combination, of course. And and then over time, as the X-Men started to trust her more and more, she became a very integral part of the team. Um, you know, as to, and but unfortunately had no control over those powers. Of being able to absorb, like the powers and personality and the memories of other people. So, um, so now, of course, when she and Gambit were starting to get close, it was like, oh, how's this gonna happen? But now they never actually explained how she gained control over her powers, but she did to a point where I mean, it was like where they could at least have an actual relationship, which was pretty cool. I mean, it's like you can't have her be alone like that forever. Um, but I wish they did explain why it happened. That's the thing. I mean, maybe there was, if anybody out there, if you know the issue, the comic, whichever, where it was explained, please tell me, because if I can find it, I'd love to read it. So I mean, but also as far as the character Rogue goes, they did do her in the movies with Anna Paquin. I think only the one, yeah, only like the early X-Men movies. I think she may. I'm trying to remember. I don't think. Oh yeah, she was actually in Days of Future Past, but I think her part was like kind of edited out. So if you see like the uncut version, you'll see her in there, because I think for a time, while they had Wolverine, under the whole thing of him being sent to the past, I think for a while there they had Rogue, absorb some of the powers from Kitty and let her take over for a while Kitty Pryde got some rest. So, but yeah, that was in I think I don't know if there's an extended cut. I just remember I don't know if I just saw it from like a reel of deleted scenes, or if I actually did see like an extended cut. I just don't remember. I'm old sometimes, I forget things. Um, but I do remember that that was there. I mean, but it just wasn't in the theatrical version. So, and yeah, so Rogue. I mean, I just see her as being a part of the X-Men until the end, until they decide to end it all. you know. So I do believe that she's going to be around for a very long time, and she has been and probably will be one of my favorites until that point. All right, so now we're going to move on to number three. All right, so at number three, I have Storm. Our favorite mistress of the weather, as she's sometimes called, or goddess. And I remember when she first came in, because I was starting to read at the time, and I thought first I thought her character was weird, but I really love the fact that she can control the weather, and it's like when also that when her mood changes, sometimes that inadvertently changed the weather as well. But as time grew on, she also became one of the better X-Men leaders that they had, especially when Cyclops decided that he was going to leave. Then she took over, and I felt like she did I felt like she did a great job. So and that's a character that I always enjoyed reading, even in the solo books that they did for her, and of course, in the movies, they always found a way to bring her in. Of course, she was a mainstay in the original version of the movies, and then when they did First Class and they moved on from there, they brought her in again. Especially, I think it was Apocalypse. We saw her in, and like the newer version. And I know when they did Days of Future Past, we did see. I'm pretty sure we saw the Halle Berry version, as well as possibly. No, actually no, not the newer version. Just the Halle Berry version. But we saw her a lot more in like the newer version. We saw her a lot more in X-Men Apocalypse, and it's again done very well. And I really it's like I enjoyed reading and I enjoyed watching, and of course in the animation, the one thing I wish they would do in the animation is to stop all the announcement of like the whole proclaiming of what she's doing while she's doing it. It's like, I don't know. I guess now it's more of a bit than anything else. I guess they're just not going to stop because now everybody expects it. But every time they did it, and she would go, "Oh, by the mystic powers," I'm like, just do it, please, just do it. And I don't know. I guess they did it for theatrical effect for the animation, but I don't know. Anyway, so from there, I'm going to move on to number two. All right, number two, Cyclops. Yes, I know he gets a lot of hate from a lot of people. Like they say, he's too, like the character's too, like bland. I guess I always liked him. I mean, he has things he does well, which is of course leading the X-Men team and the use of his optic blasts, and he has a lot of like trouble going on with him, like because he's as he's trying to be the good leader, he doesn't really handle opposition too well. Um, and also the fact that those optic blasts are always on, so he always needs something to cover his eyes. I mean, he's a very complex character. It's more complex than people think, really, when you really think about it. and it's and of course in the comics the kind of roller coaster that he had been on, where he went from being the obedient student of Professor Xavier to basically kind of overthrowing the whole Xavier dream and just doing it his way for a while, which of course didn't work out. And then and then of course now as it went on, we were starting to wonder, okay, is that really him or was it the influence from Emma Frost? Because at the time that's who he was with, which I felt was an interesting twist to his whole story arc. And then of course through the Krakoan era, kind of bringing it on home where he's now back with Jean Grey and being kind of almost the obedient student again, not entirely though. And then now it's and again, like I said, I haven't been able to read anything in the last 8 months. But the last time I was reading is like they finally he was finally broken out of where the company or the Orchis was holding him, because for anybody who read the Krakoan era, they know that Orchis was basically the company that actively went after them and kind of destroyed the whole Krakoan dream for the X-Men, for all the mutants, and and basically got away with it. As far as I know, like I said, I haven't read anything in 8 months, so I don't know if they finally got their comeuppance, but But anyway, I remember he was basically in a basement somewhere with his eyes sewn shut, and that's how they had him. So, and then of course he was broken out. I unfortunately don't remember who got him out. May have been Kitty Pryde. I don't remember. But hey, anybody out there who does remember, let me know, because I don't want to, I don't want to basically, put it on here that a wrong, wrong information. So if you know, let me know in the comments. And so anyway, and for I just really enjoyed watching, reading Cyclops and even watching him with the movies. I know the movies he was kind of underrepresented, if I may say. Well, at least in the original ones with James Marsden playing him, I felt he was kind of underrepresented, but they tried to step that up with the new guy. I don't remember the actor's name. And I feel like even with him, they could have done just a little bit more. But you know what? Maybe when they bring the X-Men into the MCU, maybe they will. Who knows? So anyway, that's number two is for me is Cyclops. Now to the number one. All right, my number one all-time favorite X-Man. Can anybody guess? If you guess Wolverine, you're right. Yes, Wolverine. I mean, who doesn't really? I mean, anybody who's an X-Men fan, I don't think I've met one that doesn't like the character Wolverine. I don't think I've met one. I mean, if you don't, let me know. But keep the comment within the realms of good taste as to why you don't like Wolverine. Anyway, so yeah, Wolverine. We've seen him go through all types of stuff. I mean, we've seen him break away from Department H in Canada, where he was supposed to be a part of Alpha Flight. We've seen him be welcome in, but at arm's length into the X-Men because of his wild nature. Then eventually they all started learning about him. I mean, I do remember one where he said he was going hunting, and Storm immediately railed into him about killing, and he's like, who said anything about killing? It doesn't take skill to kill. It does take skill to sneak up on a skittish doe just to touch her. And they were like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. It's like, you didn't ask. And it's like his attitude is also what drew me to him, is that because you could tell like he's got kind of a bad attitude, but he uses it in a really good way. Kind of like to like show you like, yeah, screw you. You don't know me. So yeah, so then we also saw him go through all types of transformations. There was one where he was starting to devolve a bit, and then actually that was right after Magneto ripped the adamantium off of his body, and we saw him go through that. We saw him go, and of course he got the adamantium put back on, and then we saw him become a leader, actually running Xavier's school for a while. Then we got to see him actually start to decline and die die, and then come back again. It's and then through the Krakoan era, we basically saw him, keeping everything at arm's length because he didn't feel like he deserved to be there. It's like all sorts of things. I mean, and as far as interactions with other things, we saw him become an Avenger. We saw him basically form a very big friendship with Spider-Man. We saw him do all sorts of things. I mean, it's like, there was at one point Wolverine was in X-Men, X-Force, Avengers, and doing solo, and in his own solo book. I mean, he was like everywhere. The only were like, I can remember some of the fans were saying, "What's next? He's going to be in Fantastic Four." And funny, I should mention that there was a few issues of the Fantastic Four where they had the new Fantastic Four when when the originals were they were off-world and seemingly dead, where basically the new team was Spider-Man, the Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine. So yeah, he kind of has been just in just about everything, but it's always been good. It's not like it's very rare that I read an X-Men book and I'm like meh. I mean, most of the time I'm like ooh, it's like oh that was good. So yeah, I mean he's my all-time favorite X-Men. I mean, probably always will be. I don't see another X-Men character coming even close to knocking him off that perch. So yeah, so that's my top 10. Yeah, so like I said, that's my top 10. Um, yeah, my favorite X-Men. I mean, so as like I said, they're my favorite X-Men. Doesn't mean that I believe they are the best. So if any of you out there who are watching this video have any different feelings about any characters that I didn't mention, or maybe think that my character should be in it, the characters that I like should be in a different order, or they're in a different order for you, put it in the comments. Let me know. I mean, let me know which characters you like that are not on this list, because I do like a lot of X-Men characters. I do like, practically all of them. But these are my favorite. These are like my top 10 favorite ones. And something, there may have been a character that I really liked and I haven't read in a while and I forgot about. So you might help me jog my memory on some of my favorites. So just again, put it in the comments. The main point of these comic videos is to start a discussion. That's what I'm looking for the most from these videos. So please use the comment section. Like I said, just keep everything within the realms of good taste. If you think a character is bad, don't just say he's bad. Tell me why. If you can't think a character is great, again, don't just say he's great. Tell me why. Or I should say he or she. Sorry about that. Yeah, so, want to, get a discussion and keep it going. If I see, actual comments, other than, just something that's obviously a joke, I will respond. So, just like I said, just keep it within the realms of good taste. All right, so anyway, that is all I got for this video today. Hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you respond to it. And so just know, like, subscribe, and share this video as much as possible. It's the best way to support the channel. And also, please go to Tabletop Jones Productions and do the same over there. Because as soon as John is done with his haunted house, we're going to be getting more videos ready to go. And yeah, so just like I said, the biggest thing you can do for me and for for this channel and for Tabletop Jones Productions is to like, subscribe, and share. That's all you really need to do to help support us. And the more support we get, the more good things can come. All right, so thank you very much for watching. You have a great day. Take care of yourself, and I will see you again. So, next month, I'm thinking of doing my favorite X-Men villains, keeping the same theme. All right, see you then.